Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. In today's video, we're looking at another large block frigate, and this one that I'm currently standing on is called the Telesto, which is this lovely thing over here. So this is a heavily armed ship that features all the basics you need for survival mode in the form of a survival kit, O2HU generators, tripods, and all of that. We've got assault cannons around the side, artillery gun below the ship, then at the very front here we've got ourselves a singular railgun for some precise destruction if that's what you want to do. At the rear of the ship we then got some custom guns in the form of a custom autocannon turret. We've got one on both sides and they all feature 4 autocannons to help blast your enemies with. Then of course, finally right behind here and at the rear of the ship both sides we then got an interior turret for you to deal with any kind of pesky drones that say launching missiles towards your ship, or just, well, a small little drone trying to harass you from behind. Anyway, back over to here and then pressing F10, finding in the spawn menu the Telesto is 1017 large blocks, using no DLC packs, no mods, and no scripts. We have a nice bit of information about it on the Steam Workshop page, and of course its stats all the way down to here, what it can do in terms of moving around. So there we go, I won't have to do a thruster test because that's everything you need to know. Down to there's your weapons, and of course a jump drive where we can jump 2,000 kilometers, which is bloody good stuff. So giving this thing a thumbs up, move around towards the very front, have a quick look around the outside. They'll go and fly around for a bit, find some space pilots which are in the current area because they keep flashing me with their mayday signals, then test out all the guns. In fact, that was something shooting in the background maybe. No, it wasn't, just a light reflecting on one of the armoured panels at the back. Yes, we'll go test out against space pirates, see how it handles against them, and I think that'll be that. So bring the sunlight all the way back around, that will have to do, and this is what we get at the front of the Telesto. So right in the very middle, what we talked about at the very start is our railgun to blast your enemies with. And that's been surrounded by some lovely grey and light blue steel blocks to make up the main body of the ship. Able to move all the way up to where I'm standing, then see a long little section that go across some glass windows, where behind there is our control seat, we'll be able to fly this thing around. So all the way past here, past these piston heads, there's our control seat with a doorway right behind there, so it's very minimalistic with the whole bridge design. Anyway, pulling away from this and coming around onto the side that has the most sunlight, which I believe is this side, and then see even more of our grey and light blue blocks, with a little hint of creamy yellow and some red to break it all up. If we were to continue moving around onto the side, and then see 1 of 2 assault cannon turrets, then 2 lights to light up the darkness, make sure it looks very pretty as you're flying around in a dark skybox. Moving past this, here's our hydrogen thrusters, where hydrogen thrusters are the only form of thrusters that are on this ship, so you are good for being in both space and on a planet, and this thing is perfectly set up to fly on a planet, with even controls to turn off the top thrusters, because they are not needed when moving down in gravity. Past here, here's our doorway to get in and out of the ship, a double door, one on both sides, where they're all controlled by a time block where after a few seconds, they'll just close all up behind you so you don't have to lift a finger. There's one of our gyroscopes to move this thing around, here's a connector to dock up and of course load out of hydrogen and any other goods you need. Then putting my light on down to here, there's your artillery gun to blast your enemies with when you need some heavy firepower for whatever reason. Moving all the way back up, come around into this section, we see some lovely use for our barred windows. But right behind there is our interior section where we can see our gravity generator, then over and around to here, we then got 2 hydrogen thrusters to slow this thing down, where once again, like the top thrusters, we can turn it off from the cockpit if we want to cruise around at a constant rate. Pulling away from here, around towards the back, here is our custom autocannon turret, 1 on both sides, 4 autocannons, camera in the middle, and a custom weapon controller on the very middle, which is right where that door will lead to. Pulling away from here, moving around over to this section, some more hydrogen thrusters for our left and right. Then at the very back of this thing, we then got our interior turret, 1 of 2, to deal with any kind of minor targets. If we were to move around towards the very back of this thing, this is what's going to push us around, and that is 2 large hydrogen thrusters, which give us a nice lot of speed while driving this thing around. Putting my light on, in fact turning it off so it looked better like this, we then see our singular jump drive, where we can jump, like I said on the Steam Workshop page, 2,000 kilometers, which is bloody good stuff for a combat frigate. Moving all the way up and looking down this thing, we've got even more hydrogen thrusters for when we're in space, and once again, the return of our yellowy and red stripes. Over onto this part, looking all the way down, putting on my lights, it's a bit of shadow there. We've then got 2 arrows pointing towards the middle, we've got our 3rd connector to help dock this up. See if you have a small transport ship, a small fire ship, or even a small mining ship, you can have it dock up to this for long voyages. Turning that off and moving all the way away. Over to this part, there's your laser antenna. And towards the front, there's the area where our cockpit is sitting. And then all the way across, that is where I'm standing. Moving all the way down under this thing, past our railgun, putting on my light. Here we go, we then see some more hydrogen thrusters, keep us off the ground. Then moving along towards the main body, there's our artillery turret. into this part, here's your magnetic plate on a fancy custom landing leg. We're going to come all the way up to it and look at it like so. There we are, that's all it is. Then coming back down and working your way towards the back, there's an air vent to refill your oxygen tanks, more hydrogen thrusters, then at the back there's our large hydrogen thrusters to push you around. And there we go, that's that for the outside of the Telesto Class Frigate. It looks bloody fantastic with how it's all been set up, and it should do very well in combat, being all the guns and the placement of the guns, which is always a very important thing to have on a large ship, because a lot of ships tend to have guns all lining up facing each other, so if you're directly looking at an enemy, all the guns will basically hit into each other, wasting a lot of ammunition. But because of the way this one is being set up, you can see that the autocannon turrets at the back there have plenty of clearance from the autocannon turrets at the front, due to them being edged out slightly. But anyway, as for that, grabbing hold of my character, coming around towards the door on one of the sides, come around into this doorway, just go and open this up, here we go, land myself down, come on in, turn around, and as you can see the door close up behind me, thanks to a timer block. Opening up this, walking forwards, and this is the first room we're greeted with. So right in the middle, we got then a cargo container for a quick access, with another air vent to make sure we don't suffocate. There's a red door on the opposite side, which would be our airlock for the opposite side of the ship. Around towards the front here, we then got two custom weapon controllers, which are for our autocannon turrets on the back of the ship. If we were to walk past this section, first of all, it's an oxygen tank in the floor. At the very back, another cargo access with two crypods for a quick little recharge. Then past this part, towards the front, there's our gravity generator to make sure we can jump and not float away. And a few little bits and bobs on the side of this room. So we can see here some passages which are being used for a bit of decoration. So if you have access to the DLC packs, you can remove these. Say put in some extra stuff like beds, tables, or the bookcases if that's what you want to do. Plus bring up the HUD and say get rid of this, turn this around. There we go, put that in place. Come over to this one, remove that, put some fish in. Round to this one, get rid of that. Turn it around so we then got a bookshelf, and so on and so forth. Anyway, past this room, go around towards the very front of this thing. So through into here, then you come into a very weird section. We've got a bunch of control seats, which all have the same controls as our main cockpit at the top of the ship. Except these ones cannot actually drive the ship around. They are purely there for, well, a backup in case the top one gets destroyed. But there is our large hydrogen tank, and then see our reactors to give it a bit of power. More cargo access around the room. And down into here we can see our O2H2 generator. Make sure that hydrogen tank is constantly topped off. Anyway, turning around, there's our survival kit. And then some very, very steep stairs. They come all the way up to another doorway, and this will take us to our main cockpit to drive this thing around. Just looking around here, there's nothing much going on in this room. So getting to the seat, coming into like this, then having a look around once again, we see we've got a very compromised view, so we're going to be heavily reliant on the cameras around the ship to see what's going on, or just use third person view if that's what you want to do. Anyway, bring up the HUD, these are the controls we get, where number 1 and number 2 is going for your cameras on the sides so you can help hook up those connectors when coming up to a station. Number 3, number 4 is for your turrets around the ship to change what they're targeting. I like to have them on weapons. Then number 4 to make them all lock onto the same target. Number 5 is for your hydrogen thrusters to face backwards, so you turn them off, and now as you can see there, we won't slow down. Turn them back on will come to a stop. Number 6 would be for the thrusters on the top of the ship, but for some odd reason, the controls have gone missing. So yes, it's simply for the ones along the top of the ship, so when you're on a planet, you can switch them off to save on a bit of hydrogen. Number 7 is then for your custom weapons at the back there to turn them on and off. Number 8 is then to take over your railgun at the front, click it, and then fire the railgun. There we go. And then number 9 finally is for your artillery gun below the ship to fire that if you want to. Coming out of that and onto tab number 2, then controls for our jump drives. Then got 2 and 3 to control the actual range of this thing. Then 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, once again for our hydrogen thrusters, where I believe this is the controls for the tops. There we are. Of course, once again, controls for the front, so we don't slow down. 6 and 7 is then for your override if you want to do that. 8 is for your hydrogen tanks to stockpile on and off. 9 is for your O2H2 generators to turn them on and off if you want to save on a bit of power. And as for that, that is that for the controls. So what I'm not going to do, because this thing has it clearly listed on the Steam Workshop page, is do a thruster test. So I'm going to put on the signals, find the space pirates which are somewhere in this area, and we'll go and actually test out the combat. In fact, speaking of the devil, there he is right behind me, so we need to turn this thing all the way around. And we're just going to cut when I'm a bit closer. And here we go, right ahead of me now is the Space Pirate Mayday signal, where we're going to just drive all the way out to it, let the guns have their fun, and I think that'll be that for the video. There we go, there's the signal, little Mayday, 2.6 kilometers out. And yes, now we are ready to go. We're all targeting weapons, and here we go. We now got our guns engaging. Look at all that firepower going across there. We are struggling to slow down because this thing does take quite some time to actually slow down. But there goes the custom autocannon turrets on the back of the ship, just doing one hell of a lot of damage. We see our assault cannon turrets need to be turned around just a little bit for them to open fire, and to lift out for the artillery gun underneath to actually deal some damage. But it looks like they have dealt with all the weapons on this station already, so we now need to change this to hopefully go for something else. There we go, we're now going to make them target the power, it's all done. And now we're going to go to default, where they should blast pretty much anything. And well, that's some very quick work for those poor little pirates. Come back into the artillery gun so we see exactly what's going on here. And yes, that's one hell of a lot of destruction, just firing straight into the middle. There we go, that's some nice chunky damage. And that's a huge explosion. I presume I just hit one of their hydrogen tanks. That was a very big explosion. But yes, that's the space pirates dealt with, and now we can just go all the way up to it, grind up anything we need, salvage all the resources we want. And well, that is that for this video. So yes, that's all there is to the Telesto Class Frigate. It's a fantastic ship to use in your world if you do want to have something great for combat and great for survival mode. So there'll be a link to it in the description below to check it out and play around yourself. And one final thing to do, I think, is just reverse this up slightly, crash into it, and then I shall disappear into Wednesday. So here we go, all the way forwards, turn this around so we've got sunlight on the top. We now re-engage, slamming straight into the very middle of them. There we go, that's some lovely damage. We lost the front of the ship. And well, there goes our hydrogen tank with a small explosion at the back, and a nice lot of damage. But anyway, as I was saying, that's it for this video. There'll be a link to the description below, as well as the link to the Skybox I'm currently using. And I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.